U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Arizona Forestry and Fire Management, Cornell Lab of Ornithology, National Audubon, and Tucson Audubon. Myself and the constituencies that support me, Friends of the Sonoran Desert, Arizona Trail Association, National Parks Conservation Association, Sky Island Alliance, Hands Across the River, to name a few, all believe Arizonans need a more diversified and representative commission. It makes economic sense to have a woman, a private landowner, wildlife rehabilitator, and supporter of hunting, fishing, and silent sports like hikers, campers, photographers, bird watchers, cyclists, etc. Excuse me. I believe that time is now. We need to be in pursuit of a more targeted solution for today, engaging a broader constituency for balanced, open-minded decision-making. At this point in time, we can't deny the many surveys by Fish and Wildlife, Audubon Arizona, and Smith and Moldy that indicated that the wildlife watching public's financial contributions need to be recognized and included. Hunters deserve a great deal of credit, make no mistake, for their historic role in saving some of Americans' iconic game species and their habitat. But they should not be saddled with all the financial burden. The 3 R's: recruitment, retention, and reactivation. All good tools to be adapted to include 2 more, I believe: reaching out to wildlife watchers and recognizing their relevancy. Engage and educate to ensure funding and developing new programs under Administrative Rule 17-3185. For example, utilizing possibly my own presentation of Living with Wildlife, I would further advocate for urban wildlife ed courses to include avoiding urban wildlife encounters with companion and domestic animals, saving lives and money. I would put forth a possibility of Arizona Birds, a challenge course for beginner, intermediate, and expert birders, pollinator habitat workshops, master naturalist programs, and more. Just one very key climate indicator I'll bring out: that 30% of avian populations have been lost since '73. Another further highlight. Candidate species under the ESA are the management authority of state agencies. State agencies have primacy for managing fish and wildlife within their borders. Section 6, in carrying out the program authorized by this Act, the Secretary of the Interior shall cooperate to the maximum extent practicable with the states. Section 6 describes the potential agreements with states in which the Secretary becomes party to qualified state agencies implementing the ESA. These cooperative agreements would delegate more authority to Game and Fish upon its demonstration of adequate oversight and program design. And then this agency, us, leads the way in improving implementation and improving and enhancing private landowner, person like myself, conservation tools, and in giving them incentives for research and management, because we know 3/4 of the lands that endangered species are on private lands. So I will quote from the Association of Fish and Wildlife. What is hidden from most Americans is another impending fish and wildlife crisis. For every game species that is thriving, hundreds of non-game species are in decline. In the coming years, thousands of species could be added to the list. And a joint report by National Wildlife Federation and American Fisheries Society and Wildlife Society stated the following: as many as 1/3 of America's wildlife species are at risk of extinction. So if the impact of climate change on critical habitats and subsequent listing decisions are approved in advance to the states by the Secretary, my constituency and all of us would like to see more game and fish involvement in leading and initiating research and management of listed species. So given the opportunity to serve on this commission, I believe I would bring energy, enthusiasm, experience, and I have a good set of facilitating and collaborative skills required to make the conscientious and thoughtful decisions on how best to conserve, enhance, and preserve our wildlife heritage. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll begin questions with Mr. Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kate, good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
My first question for you this morning is, what is your position on trail cameras used for non-consumptive wildlife viewing, conservation activities, and also for scouting and hunting purposes?
Good question. I did read that the commission had agreed to not have trail cams utilized in hunting. I know a lot of people use trail cams at their own homes to watch wildlife. I know I have one. So are you speaking in a general sense of putting them out on federal lands and having them utilized for hunting and or wildlife watching? Both was part of the question, correct?
Well, they're used for all those activities that I mentioned in the question, but I guess what I'm asking you is, do you think restrictions need to be placed on the use of them for some of those activities?
Yes.
Or do you think they should just continue to be used without any kind of regulation?
I thank you for that. Yes, there needs to be restrictions, clearly, for hunting. And in other areas too, I would say too, that's a category that deems them more introspection from the wildlife watching if it's not, But I think in a general sense, wildlife watchers are using them just to see who's on their property. But they definitely need to have restrictions for hunting. It gives the animal an unfair advantage, I think, going back to fair chase and parts of...
I know you're a big proponent of wildlife watching, and I honestly don't have a full understanding of how extensively trail cameras are being used by that part of our, of our people in Arizona and throughout the country. But, personally, are you aware of watchable wildlife and people using a lot of trail cameras for that purpose?
Yes. I know a number of scientists that utilize them for their camera studies to study migratory corridors, several nonprofits that I've been working with. Excuse me. I know in our conservation area we have one that we like to, that's great. It's, you're watching them and it's beautiful to see them coming in. And with the drought, my county, Cochise County, was declared a natural disaster area due to the drought, and so we found that the water we put out helped them a great deal. We had them in certain spots, but our earth tanks, that cattle ranchers have a lot of the hollowed out earth tanks, those dried up, and the oldest spring on our property dried up too. So we were using our own well water to kind of go around and create these. But I know they're utilized very well because it helps nonprofits to determine what's happening with the animals and where they're going and how they're moving around. And so it's a good tool, good scientific tool, I think.
Thank you for your thoughts on
No,
those.
thank you. Thank you for the question.
Good morning, Ms. Scott.
Good morning.
Thank you for applying and thank you for being here. The commission system in Arizona gives great latitude to the commission to make public policy for wildlife management. How would you describe your role as a commissioner in making public policy? And then following up with that, at the end of your term, if you were selected to be on the commission, what would you like to leave as your legacy?
I would greatly relish the endeavor of engaging the public further with instructing them and how great this agency is. I mean, I'll have to tell you, the more I dig in, there's a lot of great work that's been done, and I don't think that it's common knowledge to a whole lot of people, even with some of the scientists and nonprofits that I've worked with. So they appreciate that. And so the public policy of engaging the rest of the constituency is what I'd like to get involved with right away, and going out and, if selected, and meeting people in the safe way and educating them about what the agency really does beyond what people can get focusing on in one particular area when there's a whole gamut. Because I've worked with the agency over 20 years, and I've worked with different members of the group, of the agency. So a lot of incredible people. So further engaging and to get further involvement due to, as you can see, the things I outlined. And what I would like to leave as a legacy is that I hope everyone felt that they truly had a voice in how wildlife is conserved in our state, you know? Thank you.
Scott,
Thank-
thank you for your interest. And if you would, please tell us what you believe to be the two most important issues that will face the Arizona Game and Fish Department in the next 5 years.
It will be the impacts with climate change. It will be the impacts, dare I say it, with what's happening along the border, the complete loss of migratory corridors. And it's also the fundamental one is the funding, because in order to do better outreach, which I know I have been involved with some of the non-game people, nest box conservation with the kestrel boxes and things like that. And inevitably, I think people have to get moved around. I know my own wildlife manager gal said, "Oh, I'm covering from Sassabee to the Mule Mountains." I'm like, "Wow, how do you guys do all that?" So I think the impact of funding is a crisis. I mean, we're at a climate, a species, and a funding. So I think it's imperative, as the Association of Fish and Wildlife, I gave you the handout, they outlined legislative priorities that, a little bit of help, additional funding. I know they're working on Pittman-Robertson and things like that, but to help us address this, because I think we're doing a great job, and I know everyone's heart's in the right place, and like to just sort of address that a little strongly with some of the people in the House and the Senate. So I think that's it. Really, is recognizing who we really need to help first as far as the species, and I think we already know that with some of them that are already listed, but the ones that are teetering, and then shoring that up with funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A major key to having an effective 5-member commission is having every member attend and participate in every meeting. Given your current occupation and other obligations, are you able to fulfill the tremendous commitment of time to serve on the commission?
Yes, Mr. Madden, yeah, I said that right. I was going to make you the chairman already. I do. I do. I really do. All kidding aside, I tend to have that little side of me. I would be so excited that it would be hard to hold me back. Now, my nonprofit is very small. We're moving more into an advocacy education, so it's very easy for me to coordinate whatever scheduling I have for classes or presentations or meetings. So it's very doable, and I would relish the challenge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, Ms. Scott, my second question for you is, what do you consider to be your most valuable assets that you could use to be an effective commissioner? Is it your professional experience, training, time spent outdoors as an outdoorsman, or something else?
I believe, Chairman Kelly, that I have a little bit of both. You can probably see from my resume, I have been accused of moving around a little too much with some of my friends, because I've wanted to experience a lot of things and meet the people behind those areas of expertise, and then that empowers me with the ability to speak to all those different people. Having been in the military, I can go into that, speak, and so just to highlight one. So I think that I bring a facilitative, my strongest suit is my facilitative, collaborative abilities of bringing seemingly disparate groups together that could maybe not want to even go into the same room. Case in point, the work I've been doing along the border with the fabulous Border Patrol people down there in my section, and DHS and Corps of Engineers, and then you have the environmental activists, and you have the, I'm working with a couple of cattle ranchers, and I want to hear what everybody's saying. So I think that I like to go out and really get a good feel for all the information, do it in a friendly, non-confrontational way. I don't sneak the media in there if we're having a meeting, that kind of thing, because some people can get a little, let's always say, they can get a little more combative. And I always feel that you can't be invited to the table if you are a combative personality. It just doesn't work. And so I like to be able to be at the table and bring those people together and have us all share, and then we make a very enlightened decision as a result of that, because they maybe spent 30 years studying this one plant, and I'm thinking, wow. So you bring that all together so you don't have to. So you're kind of like, leading the orchestra or something.
Great, thank you for your answer. Just for an update for your knowledge, Rich Williams in the center there, he's our current chairman this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was on your letterhead as chairman. Oh, they still have you on the letterhead.
Might have been from last year, but yeah, we rotate each year, and Rich Williams is our current chairman this year. So just wanted to make sure you understood.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kelly.
And thanks for your answer to the question.
My apologies, Chairman Williams.
Mr. Chairman, if I may take a little latitude, I've got an extra question I would like to ask, just for, I think, based on a couple of replies. And I don't think there is any, but you've mentioned a few times your collaboration with Game and Fish and you're working with them and everything. There's nothing there that would be a conflict of interest if you served on the commission?
No,
Okay.
this was a good deal years ago where they gave us our initial funding for seeding our property because it had been needed.
But there's nothing current that might,
Perfectly,
okay.
yeah,
Okay,
no.
I just wanted to clarify that,
Thank you, Mr. Townsend.
So-
Well done.
Also, as you know, we're interviewing 3 candidates today. We will send names to the governor, and then the governor will make the final selection. But what do you believe makes you the best choice? What makes you stand out from the rest? What makes you the best choice to send to the governor?
I feel that at this time, it would just be so wonderful to, dare I say it, to, as I said in my opening remarks, to have a woman. I think it helps send a message to all women out there too, that they have someone that is representing them. We are here and we are doing a lot of great stuff. And I think the fact that I'm also, as I said, a private landowner, I've worked on restoring the land, that I bring the skill of a person that has a diverse background. So I'm probably not saying that very well, I apologize. My technical background as an engineer, I think a certain way. I analyze problems a certain way. If there are any engineers in the room, they know what I mean. And you look at things very clearly and without judgment when you're collecting the information. So I would bring that, and Governor Ducey being an accountant and financial, he understands, I think, if you have that kind of mentality of thinking, but also having the personality to engage people in a friendly, as I have pointed out, non-combative way, to explain what a great agency it is, how it can help, how it will help them understand their state's incredible biodiversity. My parents live in upstate New York, and they have a lot of, we have 563 birds, they have 494, but that's just in one category. We have everything in larger numbers in any other state. We're ground zero for biodiversity. So I think if Arizonans knew that, and then we said, well, hey, we'd like you to help us go there, that I could be the person that could reach out to them, because I share that passion for conveying that. And I have since I got here 23 years ago, and I started building nest boxes with little kids. I'd go to schools and we'd build nest boxes together, with their parents, and it just kept going. So it's all the fault of 3 bluebirds that I'm here. And then people say, really? And it's true. And so you just keep going and going, because your thirst for information and I said about the species. So I think I would bring that, just the devotion of it. You know, it's in my heart. I just beat that way. Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Scott, the state of Arizona has a process in which the public may place legislative measures on the ballot to be voted on during general elections. What are your thoughts on the use of this voter initiative process as it might pertain to managing wildlife?
I think that's a good initiative. I think that underscores people having the say in their wildlife. It is held in public trust doctrine. You know, the state agency has the sovereignty to manage it on their behalf, and I think knowing that they have that voice and it empowers them, and gets them more involved too, and then it's a win-win.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fair chase, along with the North American model for wildlife conservation, should be the two backbones of hunting in our nation and state. Tell us why this statement is accurate and your views on the two items, fair chase and the North American model.
Well, as I've read in several places too, hunt hard, hunt fair, and that's a very clear statement, very easy to convey. So you need fair chase with the North American model of wildlife conservation. The animal needs to know that it has being pursued, it has a fair chase of reasonable avenue of escape. The hunter should track and provide a clean fatal blow, and the hunting is not wanton, meaning these are one-on-one and it's not, you know, a multiple thing. And then you couple that with the tenets, the 7 tenets. I've got a few of them memorized, but when Teddy Roosevelt set it all up in he didn't set it up, but he started it with the Boone and Crockett Club. But then in 2001, when the model came out, it gave the hunting population and fishing too. I mean, this, not fishing in a way, but the model gives fishing too. The infrastructure, because without it, I think it would be pretty chaotic. You wouldn't have a paradigm to follow. So it works like, you know, together like this. So you need both. Yeah, I hope I explained it. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, that concludes our questions. Thank you for coming again today.
Thank you, Chairman.
And do you have a closing statement for us?
I just feel very humbled and honored to have this opportunity. And I feel that there are so many people behind me that I wanted to do right for, and that's everyone in the state. And I wanted all the traditional stakeholders to realize that too, that, you know, we're all in this together, and what we respect, we protect. And I really feel that if given the opportunity, I could be the person that could say, hey, you know, we're all in this together, and let's get going. And let's get working on it, ensuring a wildlife legacy for the next 7 generations. So thank you.
Thank you. So, there are no other questions, or we'll move on to item number 5, recommendation of applicants. Score each applicant. Again, 25 points per individual, with no more than 15 points going to one candidate.
Mr. Chair, it's not on the agenda, but I would like to, make sure we once again reiterate the recusals and disclosures.
Thank you for reminding me. Mr. Madden,
Yes.
any recusals?
No. Well, I take that back. I do know the Caputo family. Flagstaff, I don't know him individually, but I knew the family of that, but I don't think that will interfere with the judgment.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I do not know any of the applicants. No reason for recusal. And the only time I've met Ms. Scott before was when she interviewed last year, or one other time.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly?
My experience is the same as Mr. Townsend's. I don't know any of the applicants personally. I remember Ms. Scott from her application and interview last year, but I have no reason to recuse myself from any of the 3 applicants.
And I also, like Mr. Kelly and Mr. Townsend, I'm familiar with Ms. Scott from last year's, interview process, but I have no reason to recuse myself.